here in Twitch land. This is a Doc or Gamer Suits with yet another video on Wild Terra 2. This is another thing with some tips for new players to help you get started in the game once you've left Tutorial Island and gone to the mainland. So if you remember, if you watched my last video, it was about mainly stacking of items in the production stations and how to optimize your usage of those stations using stacking, as well as stacking of ammunition for missile weapons and just a couple of other quick little tips. This time around, we're going to talk a little bit about the interface of the game and the fact that you can customize it a little bit, and maybe bring in a couple other tips as well. So let's go ahead and start here. I'm in my DOM again, my Dominion, and first off, just so you know, a lot of people don't realize, but if you go up to the top of the map, you can move that mini map around to a better location if it's a better spot on the screen for you. So that's something a lot of people didn't realize, is you can adjust where the mini map goes. Another one you could do is your little quest log here. You can move it over to here so you can see it better, so it's not overlapping. The colors have got a little bit more differentiation. You can tuck it under a little bit so it's a little bit out of the way. But that's something you can do as well. So those are little things that you can do to customize your game. Speaking of things that customize your interface, you have the option to get, capes or loot or backpacks, and they will give you extra slots in your inventory. If you see my inventory, when I have my loot, which is from the Bard pack equipped, I get 5 additional slots from the loot, so I can go ahead and just click equip, and I get those 5 slots down at the bottom, which increases the overall amount that I can carry. There are also backpacks that could be as few as like 4 extra slot backpacks, all the way up to, I think I've heard of an 11 or 12 slot backpack in the game. Now the trouble with backpacks, of course, is they also have like a 15% slowdown, generally speaking. So, but then if you got like the Miner's Pack, which is one of the exotics, that actually has hidden slots so they don't drop on death. So, there's a compromise there. Some of the things that you get are like no drop on depth type of slots that you can get from some of these packs. So those are all things involving the interface that you can use. You can also get belts in the game, which will give you additional hotkey slots that you can use and assign in the game. I don't actually have one of the belts, but that's just another option for customizing your interface. And then there's various ways to do things. By default, the hotkeys on your bar are from 1 to 0, so the top number row of your keyboard to activate these by default. And then you have a mounting button and you have a pet summoning button. Now mine are currently set. I don't recall what the default is. I think I changed mine, but the mount summoning is the backslash, and the pet summoning for me is the semicolon. So, but you can change those, and you can do that by going into escape and going to options and go to controls. And here you have all the things that you've got for the hotkeys set up, and you can go in and change them by clicking on one and setting the primary, or clicking on the second one out and setting a secondary for each of your keys when you're navigating the game. And it's got quite a bit of things that you can do for that. See, here it even has belt slot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way through to belt slot 10, if you were able to get a 10 slot belt. And you see none of those are currently assigned. So you would assign those once you got the belt to do it. You can also click on default to go back to default settings if you change it to something that you don't like, and set them all back to default, and that'll help you out as well. So those are the things you can do with the interface, and we're going to go back now, and we're just going to close this. All right, those are interface changes that you can do. Now the thing is, it's like moving the quest bar, moving this, you'll have to redo that every time you log in. It doesn't remember it for the next time. And in fact, if I change this to a higher resolution monitor like this, it gets moved. So like if I had them tucked here, and then I changed monitors, actually in this case it stayed tucked, but say I had them tucked over here and went to the higher resolution monitor, it's now up here instead of tucked under, and that's partly because this monitor has a more expanded viewing area. So that's one of the things that you can look at. Now these, while we're talking about the interface, we're also going to talk about quests. You've got some quests that are default quest lines, and you'll know it's a default quest line because you didn't have to accept it, or there was an immediate accept right after turning in one of the previous quest lines. And also when you click on it, you do not have the option to cancel the quest. You know, see, there's no cancel on the Tree Giants quest or the well, I can do the Hardened in Battle. So that was actually an optional quest that was given to me. The only one that that's the default quest line right now is the Tree Giant. Hardened in Battle is one from that was given to me from somebody, I believe is Regara, the junk dealer, gave me that one. And then Order on Horses is from the Tavern. Every day at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Right now, it was 7 p.m. before daylight savings time kicked in, but it's now 8 p.m. Central Time, which would make it 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for the U.S. time zone. Your daily quest logs reset, and then you can, get new quests as long as you've either completed or abandoned your old quest. And there are a few places to go to get quests. I'm going to just show you a couple of them, the easier ones to get to. The ones that are in the green zones is what I'm going to show you. There are 3 zones in the game. There's the green, the yellow, and the red zone. If you've played games like Albion and some others, you kind of know that that's safe, moderately safe, and then deadly. And the reason, like the moderately safe ones, you can still die and respawn at your spawn point, but you don't lose your gear. And then the deadly areas, you die and you lose everything in your backpack unless it's in a safe storage space or you've got it equipped. Now you see this notice board here at the tavern. I'm going to show you on the map, right here where that little like black stone is on the map, in the main map, that is the tavern, and it's one of your earliest quests when you go to the mainland is to find that tavern. You get to find that tavern, then afterwards you have to find the cemetery, which is right over here. Over to the right of the cemetery is the junk dealer and the church. Church is one of the static dungeons. It's made for groups, but it's not exactly procedurally drawn. There are a couple of turns in it that they switch between right and left, but everything else is the same. The dungeon layout's the same pretty much every time you go in there, and you just set your difficulty level. But you may turn right, you may turn left in a couple of places in there, but it's pretty straightforward. There are no like real T intersections in this dungeon, so it's straight up. And then in the graveyard is where you're going to do a lot of your beginning combat. But here's where you'll get a set of daily quests. And then up here is the town of Hartford. It's a little island. It's a safe zone. And you can see the names are in green. That shows it's a green zone. Where if a name is in yellow, it's a moderately dangerous zone, like the graveyard, kind of an orangish yellow. And then if it's red, it's one of the heavy full loot zones where you drop everything but your equipped items or anything that's in a secure thing or has that a special ability doesn't drop on death, like some of your higher level exotics, which you will not drop on death, like the Wonder Tool, the third and higher level Wonder Tool. But as you go here, you will ride up to the town of Hartford, which is your main area in town, and that's where you're going to get your daily quests. And it's important to get these daily quests done. It's not because you necessarily get experience for the quest, because it's really no experience reward, because there's no general level in your characters, but there is rewards in copper and silver and other items as you complete the quest. If you go up here, the primary place you're going to check in Hartford for your first quest and look for those exclamation points is going to be this notice board. And there can be up to 3 quests here. I have 2 left because I've already done one for today. I did actually complete one of my 3 quests for today here, and there's a maximum of 3 quests right here. So I'm not taking either one of these because I can't currently complete them. Those are animal husbandry quests. But look at your quests. Now, early in the game, you'll get the option of like certain quests will ask for like calves or chicks or strawberry dessert or milk or manure or a different type of beer or wine. Most of those you're not going to be able to do early in the game because beer and wine takes a fermentation barrel. The quest is usually for like 10 of those items, but each fermentation barrel only makes one in 22 hours. And I think it's actually, 22 hours per. So basically you're only going to get 1 per day, maybe 2, depending on how many ingredients are in that beverage. So you're only going to be able to do that if you're trying to do it on your own about once every 5 to 10 days, although you generally won't get that same quest over and over every day. So if you feel like hanging on to it, you can. Just realize that that's going to limit the other quests that you get every day while you're holding on to a quest. It's generally better in the early game to just not take those more advanced quests so that a new quest will refresh. Or take it, but make sure that you cancel it if you can't do it right before the server reset. That's your main quest place in town. Other places you're going to find is any one of the merchants might have a quest to give you. You look for an exclamation point. Like this guy here, who is your carpenter, will tell you to take some axes to the lumberjack camp. You can take that quest. I don't recommend taking it unless you plan to do it. I don't go to the lumberjack area right now, so I'm not doing that quest. But you're limited to how many quests you can have active at one time. I think it's 8 or 10. But so look at that guy. And then finally, for the last place here in town, this guard out here will sometimes have a quest to go kill the bloody bear on Nightmare. Usually he sends you on a Nightmare quest. That's, like I said, a group activity, but it's got a pretty decent payout. So you want to get that and get a group together to go, because all you have to do is be part of the group that beats the bloody bear to complete the quest. And a little secret is if you get the bloody bear on Nightmare as a quest, and then you also get the bloody bear with no difficulty level listed, if you beat the Nightmare bloody bear, you'll get credit for both quests. That's not true if you get the bloody bear on hard and Nightmare, because since hard is specified, it won't count Nightmare as hard, even though it's a tougher difficulty. Those are the two main places that you're going to look for quests in the town in most cases. Now, otherwise, there's the mining camp that you'll unlock early on, well, relatively early if you do the quest bug. And it's over here where I'm circling, and there's quests there, and then the lumberjack, after you do that axes quest that guy's offering at the carpenters, and that's over in this area. After you do that quest, then the lumberjacks will also offer you some quests. So those are other areas where you can potentially get quests. Once in a great while, after finishing a quest at Ragnara, the junk dealers, depending on which quest you do, she will sometimes give you another quest. And I believe she's the one that gave me the Hardened in Battle quest. But those are the basics of customizing your interface and the daily quest logs. And remember, while you're out and about, if you can, gather everything. You know, you never know what's going to be valuable. Right now, I'm not. You know, you sometimes will want to pick and choose because you got limited space. So like you'll go on specific gather runs, but just remember, until you've got your inventory full up, you can gather, and there's uses for everything. Like nests are going to provide you with eggs, bird droppings, and feathers. Feathers are needed for making arrows. Bird droppings are used in fertilizer, and eggs are used in cooking. So, plus you can just eat raw eggs to get a little bit of satiety for the mixed satiety. So you can do that. Now you want to capture things like foxes and stuff to build your animal taming, and even if you're not specializing in animal taming, it's a good idea to get most skills up to about 20, because there's usually some extra bonus passive skill or whatnot that you can benefit from at the 5, 10, and 20 level places. Some are passive, some are active, depending on the skills. And for animal taming, if you get to 20th level, then whenever you get cheese wheels and you eat them, you get bonus experience when taming your pet to level your pet faster. And cheese wheels happens to be the part of the quest reward for all the tavern quests. So all these ones over here at the tavern, I'm going to get this copper while we're here. I don't have a shovel or spade with me, so I can't get the clay right now, because you do have to have the requisite tools to harvest. But don't throw anything away until you're starting to have to pick and choose for your inventory. And it's a lot of times better to head back and unload than it is to dump some things. But some things may not be super important to you, but they'll be important to somebody else, or they'll be important later on. But like I said, anything at the notice board generally pays off in cheese wheels. Generally, not always. Usually the ones that pay off in cheese wheels are the ones that you will turn in to this guy over here, which is the animal tamer. He is the stable master, and the cheese wheels, because they help with animal taming, he gives that plus 5 silver for all the quests that he asks you to do on the notice board. So remember that. Other important things that you definitely don't want to get rid of, they always have value no matter how high a level you get in the game, are infected gallbladders, which are used in several different crafts. They're used to transform raw ore stacks into more efficient stacks of actual ore, because they'll take a stack of 50 raw ore and turn it into 35 regular ore. And since regular ore changes to ingots at 5 per ingot in the smeltery, where raw ore is 10 per ingot, you're actually making 2 more ingots than you were before by using the gallbladders to convert ore. And most people save it for iron. They don't bother with copper or tin except when they're leveling their alchemy, which is what's used with that particular one. Also, as always, look for godsends and try to hit every one of them you can, because there's a lot of valuable stuff there. Extra bows you can generally throw away after you've got a better bow. I've got a Dark Knight too, so I don't worry about the bow. But you definitely want to keep these jerkies. And when you're not eating them, don't bother to carve those up yet, because they take up less space in your inventory because they'll stack. But that's one of the things. Other things that you always have value in the game are pepper, because anybody who does cooking will value pepper. Now, you can get pepper at the vendors in town, but you want to, if you're going to go into high-level cooking, you want a lot of pepper. And even if you yourself aren't going to go into high-level cooking, if you have a guildmate or somebody who's doing cooperative stuff with you for stuff like they're doing the cooking and providing you with stuff, one of the most important foods that they provide later on in the game is called a grilled fish fillet with spice that's made with carp and a couple of other ingredients. But the with spice part is the final step in the cooking process, and that takes pepper. So that's where pepper becomes a valuable spice, is in that regard. I'm going to go over here right now, and I'm just going to put away stuff. Different people will have different ways to organize their things, so don't feel like you have to do your inventory in the same manner that I have mine. Each to their own, as it were. But anyway, those are just the basics that you will go through. Like I said, feathers are used for making arrows. You cannot make poison or fire arrows. Those are only dropped from mobs. But it's a good idea to stockpile them, because they give a nice debuff to some of the bosses and things. So they're like really good for like beating the bloody bear in the church later on. So that's mainly what I use them for. And you can sell some excess if you want to, but it's a good idea to keep a bunch. Mushrooms are, you need to identify them before you store them so they'll stack with their fellows. These 2 types of mushrooms right here are mainly, they're poisonous, so you don't want to eat them, but they are mainly used in making some healing supplies. And then these 4 mushrooms are used in cooking. And probably the most valuable is this one, because it's the most rare, and it's used in a recipe called Forester's Chowder or Hunter's Chowder that covers 3 different satiaties at like 30%. I actually have one over here. I'll show you. Forest Chowder. As you see, it covers meat at 30, vegetable at 30, and mixed at 30. So the only thing it doesn't cover is fruit and bread. But you could actually run around with a forest chowder and a blueberry bun stack and only need 2 stacks of food. I don't have enough of it really to carry it like that yet. I'm kind of saving it and stockpiling it. I often carry onion rings, fruit salad, and some kind of meat to cover all 5 satiaties. And you really want to keep those at +4 by having it something in every one of them. And your simple foods will only bring you up to 30% on any individual one, but your advanced foods can bring you up to like 100. So that's why I've got like a 98 on bread. And there is a Steam achievement for getting 100 in all of them. So just I'll warn you about that right now. Anyway, this concludes this real simple tips and tricks video. I didn't want this to be a long one. It's probably been a little bit longer than I originally intended. But just to summarize, make sure to get your daily quests every day. Customize your interface to what's most comfortable for you. And remember, you can change your hotkey buttons. Like, for instance, the default hotkey for having your pet back down and not attack is a function key that on my computer puts it on airplane mode. So obviously that's not a real convenient key for me. So I have to change the key or activate it from the bar here. Because if you have like your pet summoned, you can use the hotkeys that are listed for these different things on the pet, or you can just click on them with your mouse. So it's both a dual key and click method, and that's true with all of the stuff in the hotkeys. Like I could summon my mount, or I could summon my pet by double clicking on them down here. Don't forget your run button. If you ever mistakenly turn that off, that's what makes you go faster, so you don't have to double click to run. And your inspiration button, which defaults to the letter X. And as you can see, I had my inspiration on, so I've been using inspiration for everything I was doing just now. Probably not a good idea, but I will sometimes accidentally hit the X key, or my cat will walk over my X key. So I do have to kind of watch that. You can only accumulate 50,000 inspiration, and that only accumulates when you're logged off of the game. So that's something to take care of. Now remember, all my videos are brought to you by Extra Life, which is part of the Children's Miracle Network. It helps kids with chronic conditions that are often hospital bound, things with cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, cancer, end-stage renal disease, which I have myself, even though I'm not a kid. And so the funds from Extra Life goes to pay for research. It goes to get specialized equipment, so that maybe previously they might have been hospital bound, but with special equipment they could possibly go home. So this will help them do that sometimes. It'll help them also be more like a kid their own age. They'll help them get puzzles and board games and console games so that they can feel a little bit more like normal kids, especially like we recently had the outbreak of COVID. And during COVID, even your friends and family could not visit you in the hospital if you were an extended stay like some of these kids. So you were cut off from your loved ones. So it would be nice if they could get on like tablets and laptops, or play like Xbox or PlayStation games, where they could play live with their friends across the internet. And that's one of the things that Extra Life does. And 100% of the money from Extra Life goes to the kids. The administrative costs come out of a different fund. And in fact, when you go to donate to Extra Life, the individual campaigns are sponsored by people like myself. And when we choose to do a campaign, we even get to choose which hospital or hospital network that our funds are going to be mainly focused on. Some of them go to do big overarching national projects, but we get to determine on the local level which hospital gets our funds. So we get to help the people in our local area. If you subscribe to my channel on Twitch, half of everything I make from the monetization of the channel, the affiliate program, rounded up off the top, every time I get a payout, goes directly into my Extra Life fund. That's from subscriptions, including when you do your free Amazon Prime subscription, because if you're an Amazon Prime member, you get one free subscription every month, and that's worth $5. Now, $2.50 of that goes to Twitch, which when it's Amazon Prime is just a promotion, so they write it off. But the other $2.50 goes to the channel, and so I split everything in half. So $1.25 of each one of those would go into Extra Life, and $1.25 would go to maintaining my equipment and paying software registration stuff, which is what I spend the remainder on. And I actually spend more than what I make just maintaining, like just paying my software registration. My streaming software is $25 every 3 months. I don't typically make that all the time. I'm hoping to build up more, especially as I do more of these Wild Terra videos. And I do a regular talk show every Tuesday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Central Standard Time with co-hosts about everything and anything in the nerdosphere. But all that money goes to Extra Life, and it'll also be, as I'm putting these videos on YouTube, and I'm starting to see a surge of people watching my YouTube videos. I went from having almost none to like I've got over 66 views, and that's just in the last like week or so that I've been doing these videos mostly. One video is like a month old. When I very first started on Wild Terra, I did a video of my first character, and it's had a small number of views. But some of my more educational videos that I've done in the last week or so have been getting more views. And if I get to enough views and subscribers on YouTube, I can monetize there, and that money will also go to help Extra Life. So just remember that. Thank you for watching. May all your rolls be critical hits, or if they are fumbles, make them be epic in the retelling, as I like to say. And in the words of Stan Lee, the godfather of Marvel Comics, who's passed a few years ago, Excelsior. Have a great day.